A guy was playing golf one day and he got lost. He saw a lady up ahead of him and went to her and said, "Can you please help me? I don't know what hole I'm on." She told him, "You are one hole behind me. I'm on 7, you're on 6. He thanked her and continued playing golf. Later, he got lost again. He saw the same lady and went to her again, kind of embarrassed. "I'm sorry to bother you again, but I'm lost. Can you please tell me what hole I'm on?" She told him, "You are one hole behind me. I'm on 14, you are on 13. Again, he thanked her and continued playing golf. When he finished, he saw her in the clubhouse. He went up to her and asked if he could buy her a drink for helping him out. She accepted. As they were drinking and talking, he asked her what she did for a living. "I'm in sales," she said. He replied, "No kidding, so am I. What do you sell?" She responded that it was too embarrassing to tell, but after he kept pleading to know what she sold, she finally said that she would tell him if he promised not to laugh. He promised. She said, "I sell tampons." He immediately fell to the floor laughing hysterically. She said, "You promised you wouldn't laugh." He replied with tears in his eyes, "I'm sorry, but I couldn't help it. I sell toilet paper. I'm still one hole behind you." A married man, Jack wakes up with a huge hangover after a night out drinking with the boys. He didn't even remember how he got home from the party. As bad as he was feeling, he wondered if he did something wrong. Jack had to force himself to open his eyes, and the first thing he sees is a couple of aspirins next to a glass of water on the side table. Jack sits up and sees his clothing in front of him, all clean and pressed. He takes the aspirins, cringes when he sees a huge black eye staring back at him in the bathroom mirror. Then he notices a note hanging on the corner of the mirror written in red with little hearts on it, and a kiss mark from his wife in lipstick. "Honey, breakfast is on the stove. I left early to get groceries to make your favorite dinner tonight. I love you, darling. Love, Jillian." He stumbles into the kitchen, and sure enough, there is a hot breakfast, steaming hot coffee, and the morning newspaper all waiting for him. His son is also at the table, eating. Jack asks, "Son, what happened last night?" "Well, you came home after 3 in the morning, drunk and out of your mind. You fell over the coffee table and broke it, and then you threw up in the hallway and got that black eye when you ran into the door." Confused, he asked his son, "So why is your mother in such a good mood and breakfast is on the table waiting for me?" His son replies, "Oh, that! Well, when Mom dragged you to the bedroom and tried to take your pants off, you screamed, 'Leave me alone! I'm married! I'm married!'" 4 guys have been going to the same golfing trip to St. Andrews for many years. 2 days before the group is to leave, Jack's wife puts her foot down and tells him he isn't going. Jack's mates are very upset that he can't go, but what can they do? 2 days later, the 3 get to St. Andrews only to find Jack sitting at the bar with 4 drinks set up. "Wow, Jack, how long you been here, and how did you talk your missus into letting you go?" "Well, I've been here since last night. Yesterday evening, I was sitting in my living room chair, and my wife came up behind me and put her hands over my eyes and asked, 'Guess who?' I pulled her hands off, and there she was, wearing a nightie. She took my hand and pulled me into our bedroom. The room had candles and rose petals all over. Well, she's been reading 50 Shades of Grey. On the bed, she had handcuffs and ropes. She told me to tie her up and cuff her to the bed, so I did. And then she said, 'Do whatever you want.' So, here I am." A magician was working on a cruise ship. Since the audience was different each week, the magician did the same tricks over and over again. There was only one problem. The captain's parrot saw the shows each week and began to understand how the magician did every trick. Once he understood, he started shouting in the middle of the show, "Look, it's not the same hat!" Or, "Look, he's hiding the flowers under the table!" Or, "Hey, why are all the cards the ace of spades?" The magician was furious but couldn't do anything. It was, after all, the captain's parrot. Then, one stormy night on the Pacific, the ship unfortunately sank. The magician luckily found himself on a piece of wood floating in the middle of the sea, as fate would have it, with the parrot. They stared at each other with hatred, but did not utter a word. This went on for a day, and then 2 days, and then 3 days. Finally, on the 4th day, The parrot could not hold back any longer and said, "Okay, I give up. Where's the freaking ship?" An 80-year-old man was having his annual checkup, and the doctor asked him how he was feeling. "I've never been better," he boasted. "I've got a 20-year-old bride who's pregnant and having my child. What do you think about that?" The doctor considered this for a moment, then said, "Let me tell you a story. I knew a guy who was an avid hunter. He never missed a season, but one day went out in a bit of a hurry, and he accidentally grabbed his umbrella instead of his gun." The doctor continued. "So he was in the woods, and suddenly a grizzly bear appeared in front of him. He raised up his umbrella, pointed it at the bear, and squeezed the handle." "And do you know what happened?" the doctor queried. Dumbfounded, the old man replied, "No." The doctor continued. "The bear dropped dead in front of him." "That's impossible," exclaimed the old man. "Someone else must have shot that bear?" "That's kind of what I'm getting at," replied the doctor. 3 men are standing at the Pearly Gates. St. Peter tells them, "As you all know, God has a sense of humor, and his latest idea is to put the kingdom of heaven several hundred miles from the Pearly Gates." "How is that supposed to be funny?" one guy asks. "Well, God had the novel idea of allowing those admitted into heaven a vehicle to travel that distance, but the quality of your vehicle is based upon how faithful you were to your spouse." Knowing they can't argue and that God obviously knows all, the men begin confessing their infidelity. "I admit I screwed around behind my wife's back, but I broke it off with the girl before my wife found out," one man admits. "Very well," St. Peter responds and gives him a standard bicycle. The guy shrugs and feels a little better confessing. The second man says with a grin, "I've never actually cheated on my wife." St. Peter raises a skeptical brow. "Okay. There was one time, but it was technically before we were married. I was drunk and I didn't know what I was doing, but I've never been unfaithful after that." With a heavy sigh, St. Peter grants the second man a car, but in terrible condition. The third man says proudly, "I've never been unfaithful, never." The other two stare at the third in disbelief. "No, he's right," St. Peter confirms. "He's been faithful the whole time. In fact, he lost his virginity to his wife." The other 2 men gape in jealous amazement as the third man is granted a brand new sports car. The third man obviously can make it down the long, glittering highway toward the kingdom of heaven faster than the other 2. However, the first man on the bicycle finds the third man pulled over not too far down the road. Perplexed, he rides to the sports car and finds the man sobbing into his steering wheel. "What's wrong, wise guy? Is this Italian muscle too much for you?" he gloats. "No." The third man tries to gain composure. "It's not that. The car is beautiful." "Then what's your problem?" "I just passed my wife and she was on roller skates." A blonde who got a fishing rod for her birthday decided to go ice fishing to make good use of her gift. Early the next morning, she got all her gear together and headed out to the ice. When she reached her final destination, she cut a large hole in the ice and dipped the rod in. Then suddenly she heard a voice that said, "There are no fish in there." So she moves to another spot and cuts another hole. But then the same voice spoke again and told her there were no fish in there. So she moves again and the voice tells her there are no fish in there. So she looks up and sees an irritated man staring down at her. "How do you know there are no fish there?" asks the blonde. So the man says, "Well, first of all, this is a hockey rink, and second of all, you're going to have to pay for those holes."